Good morning, Hillman Cancer Center. Don't be disappointed today. It is only me. I know you're all going to miss Danielle, but yeah, she'll be back next week, and I definitely miss her. So bear with me. We're going to be making a pistachio oat square recipe today. It's a healthy, nutrient-dense snack. But just to give you a quick introduction, this is cooking for cancer and chronic disease. Coming at you live from the teaching kitchen here at the Wellness Suite and Studios on the 3rd floor of Hillman Cancer Center. We do this every week, and typically I have a sous chef with me, Danielle, but it is just me, like I said. So this particular recipe, if you are a part of our mailing list, it is from a blog called Love and Lemons. It is a blog that I tend to choose a lot of recipes from. I like their recipes. And if you are part of our mailing list, then you did receive this recipe. It's called Jessica's Pistachio Oat Squares. It is a super simple recipe, very minimal ingredients. And you are going to need a food processor and an oven for this, so just keep those things in the back of your mind. You do want to start preheating your oven to 350 degrees. So our recipe has these ingredients, as you can see here. We have some rolled oats, pistachios, unsweetened coconut, maple syrup, and a little bit of olive oil, and that's pretty much it. So just to keep in mind, the recipe calls for raw shelled pistachios. So shelled actually means they do not contain the shell. I know, it's strange. But the only ones that we could find were lightly salted. So raw meaning no added salt, that is what's recommended for this recipe, because the recipe actually calls for added sea salt. Because these are lightly salted, we're going to eliminate that sea salt in the recipe. So you're going to need 1 cup of your raw shelled pistachios, 1 cup of rolled oats, a half a teaspoon of sea salt, which again we're going to omit in this recipe, a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then a 1/3 cup of unsweetened coconut flakes. So again, we have all of our ingredients here. You're going to want to use an 8x8 pan and just line it with some parchment paper. And like I said, we are going to use this food processor for majority of the ingredients in this particular recipe. So if you do have a food processor, one of this size or even bigger, that's perfect. You are going to want to add the pistachios, oats, and then the salt to the food processor first. Again, we're going to eliminate that salt, so we're just going to add our 1 cup of pistachios and our 1 cup of rolled oats, if I don't lose them all. So the rolled oats that we used are these old-fashioned rolled oats from Whole Foods. Half a cup, 150 calories, 5 grams of protein, lots of fiber. So this is just good on its own, but this is what's going to kind of produce that almost like granola bar consistency with the pistachios. So this particular recipe is going to be pretty low in calories. Now, whenever I found this recipe, it did not have the nutrition facts. So what's cool about blogs and online cookbooks and things like that, I tend to look at the comments to see if, you know, if people like the recipes, if they, you know, thought they needed different ingredients or a certain amount of a certain ingredient. But as I was reading into the comments, because there was no nutrition facts, someone asked about it, and it did say that if you make 12, so if you make this, line this with 8x8 and it fits the entire thing, and you cut it into 12 different squares, one of those squares is going to be about 100 calories. And because it has the nuts, the oats, you're going to get a little bit of protein there. I'm not sure the amount, probably nothing too high, maybe 4 or 5 grams. And then you are getting a little bit of sweetness from the maple syrup. And we talked about this last time. It was a question from Danielle about like using maple syrup or honey as a sweetener. And they are definitely beneficial in a way that they have, you know, some added benefits, antioxidants, things like that. However, they still are processed in the body like sugar. It is sugar. So it makes our blood sugar spike, and then, you know, we try to normalize it with insulin. So keep that in mind. You don't want a lot of maple syrup, honey, or anything added to whatever you're cooking or preparing or adding to a certain ingredient or recipe, because it does the same thing to the body that sugar does. It makes our blood sugar spike. All right, so I added our oats and our pistachios, and I'm just gonna chop it up. And you're gonna want to chop it until it's almost like a mealed consistency. And unfortunately, again, Danielle's not here, but she would kind of switch up the screen for us and show you close up, but I'm not gonna do all that fancy stuff today, unfortunately. I didn't even include the recipe name at the bottom like she does, but this is what it's going to look like. It's almost like sawdust, to be honest with you. Like, that's the type of consistency that it is. Okay, so once that meal forms, you're going to want to add the maple syrup and the olive oil, which the maple syrup, again, is just a 1/4 cup. Okay, and then our olive oil is 2 tablespoons. The recipe actually says to keep the motor running when you're adding the liquid. However, ours won't go unless the lid is on, which majority of food processors are the same way. So we'll see how this works. Danielle, too. Danielle, if you're on there, I keep talking about you. Usually Danielle comes in here and mans the food processor because I'm a little timid when it comes to it. But, all right, we're just going to grind this up. So the consistency is going to be crumbly, but like a wet dough, because you are going to want to press it into your pan once it is that consistency that you're looking for. So what's good about this too is this is something that is definitely easy to work with, but you're going to want to use your hands because of that consistency. All right. I'm just pressing it down to get into the blade so that it all grinds up and gets that wetness from the maple syrup and olive oil in there. All right, so okay, looks pretty good. Now, what you're gonna wanna do is press this dough evenly into your 8x8 pan. So I'm gonna use this little spatula. Now, again, when I was reading those comments, someone said that the amount of ingredients that's listed in this recipe was not enough to fit an 8x8 pan. So I'm definitely curious how this works out. And I guess the person who made that comment said they ended up doubling the recipe. So keep that in mind if that's something you have to do. But when the author of the recipe responded to the comment, she said that these oat bars are actually very, very thin. So that's probably why she maybe made a thicker square or like granola bar. So that could be why it didn't fit in her 8x8 pan. Okay. So we're gonna press this down. And before we started today, I ended up grinding up additional pistachios. So we're gonna add those to the top along with our coconut flakes. So, gonna get a little dirty here. But yeah, I could see what she means by not fitting the 8x8 and making it like consistent. Throughout the pan. As you can tell, I can't really multitask. And again, that's when Danielle comes in and starts talking and asking me questions. But I think this is looking pretty good. I'm trying my best to kind of move it around so that you can get the entire pan coated. And like I said, it's an even consistency throughout the pan. This would be a fun recipe to make with a kid, I feel like, especially because these are a snack, a nutrient-dense snack, and it's almost like they're going to be using Play-Doh, you know, whenever they fit this into the pan. All right, so that looks pretty good. Yeah, I don't think you would have to double this recipe at all. This fits really nicely in that 8x8. Okay, and the reason why you want to use the parchment paper is, one, because it is so thin. If you overcook it, it can stick or burn the bottom, but also it's going to be an easy way that you can just pull this baby out whenever you're done cooking. So again, I'm just going to wash my hands, sorry, and then we're going to add our additional toppings of the pistachios and the coconut flakes. So again, our oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and you're going to want to bake this for about 10 to 12 minutes, but you do want to keep an eye on it because it is so thin. You want it to be still chewy, but have like a crunch over top. So keep that in mind when you are preparing this. All right, so I'm adding our additional pistachios on top. Looks really pretty. Pistachios are super high in unsaturated fats, so good healthy fats. They are high in fiber, some protein, and they're just delicious. I absolutely love pistachios. All right. I'm going to add, oh, I already measured our coconut flakes. It's a third cup of unsweetened coconut flakes, which now that I see a third cup, we might not have to use it all, but why not? If you don't like coconut flakes, just omit them. Okay, that works perfect. All right, so I'm just going to show you here if you can see kind of the, again, Danielle would have a nice view of this, what this looks like. All right, so we're going to add this to our oven. So whenever you're preparing something like this, again, you don't want to overcook it, so keep an eye on it. Our oven gets super hot, super quick. It rotates, so I don't think we're going to need that full 10 to 12 minutes. So I put it at about 7, and again, I'll keep an eye on it. But for next week, we're doing tuna cakes. I know a lot of people do salmon, salmon cakes or some sort of seafood, or even, you know, black bean cakes, but we're going to do tuna cakes next week, something super simple and typically things you have in your pantry. Same thing with today. These are all pretty much pantry staples, which I like it as a good nutrient-dense snack option. Next week is our tuna cakes, but then I had to come up with the next 2 months of recipes, so that's something to look forward to, our fall recipes. We're going to be doing some smoothies, some more healthy desserts, and some really good dinner recipes, weeknight staples that are super simple and easy to make, and going to be enjoyed by the whole family. So those are some things to look forward to. And if you're not a part of my email list, let me see if I can try to add my email to the bottom of the screen. I'm a little nervous. Okay. Wow, I did it. I'm so happy. Okay, so if you're not a part of our email list, my email address is at the bottom of the screen. Just shoot me an email, say that you want to be a part of that. What I do is I send the weekly recipes, so whatever we're making the following week, I will send that to you along with our YouTube link, and obviously the link to the recipe so that you have access to the blog or the cookbook or wherever I got the recipe. And that's just once a week, and you know, that's something you can join, and I won't spam you. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our YouTube channel, leave comments. We really enjoy the interaction and the feedback. Also, in that email that I sent weekly, I include a survey. So if you do have any feedback, if you have any ideas or any interest in what you'd like to see here during our cooking class, please feel free to share that, or just send me an email, you know, if you don't want to send any sort of survey results. But we really do appreciate that feedback and utilize it for, you know, future cooking classes, because I know a lot of people are looking for snack ideas, healthy desserts, and breakfast ideas. So we've tried to, you know, kind of coordinate and schedule classes based on that. So keep that in mind. And of course, if you're new here and you haven't seen our previous cooking classes, they're all going to be found on our YouTube channel. So please, you know, view those, leave a comment, send me an email. All right. So, can't tell how we're looking yet, but I also brought a pizza cutter out because I feel that this is going to be very beneficial when cutting these instead of using a knife and having to go through all of that. So I would suggest using that whenever you're making these at home. And remember, super low calorie, something that maybe you could take on the go or have as an afternoon snack with coffee, or, you know, just as something to fill the gap between lunch and dinner. I know a lot of people have a craving, or, you know, feel that they need something after work or after school, or, you know, just midday, and this is a good option. You can even eat a couple of them. You know, 200 calories is nothing, but, you know, you get that satisfaction. You're getting some fiber, you're getting some protein, and overall it should be a good nutrient-dense snack for you, and super easy to make. I mean, minimal ingredients, 10 minutes in the oven, it's nothing. All right. I'm just going to take a look at these. So whenever you are making these and you're trying to determine if they're done or not, the coconut flakes will be a little bit browned, and the actual batter or the mixture is going to be not as wet as it was initially when you're pressing it down. So it's going to have a little bit of a drier consistency. But again, you don't want it to become too dry. You still want it to have that chewy, kind of moist consistency on the inside, but have like maybe a little bit of a crunch on the outside. So we have about 2 minutes left. I did want to show you the final product, so I hope I can get to that point with you. Danielle always fills the gap in. I know you miss her too. I really miss her. And no one was able to join me today. Usually we'll have a guest, but everybody's been busy and, you know, trying to keep up with their schedule. No one can join me in my cooking classes. Okay. So I do think that's it for this week. I'm going to pull these out just so you can see them. I may have to cook them a little bit longer after the class, but they smell so good. Yeah, I would say these definitely need cooked a little bit more, but you can see the brownness of the coconut flakes. It smells so good. And I do think this is going to be needed to be cooked for another maybe 3 to 5 minutes actually, just so it can be that consistency that we want, that it's almost like if anyone has ever had a Lara bar, those are going to be kind of the consistency of this. So definitely chewy and just soft overall. That's kind of the consistency we want. We don't want it to be too crunchy or hard. Okay, that's everything I have for you today. I hope to see you next week. Like I said, please shoot me an email if you want to be added to the email list. Subscribe to our channel, like our YouTube videos, and I'll see you next week.